All right, I just want to thank you guys all for joining this evening. And, I know you guys are busy with your time, so I do, honor that you guys are spending your evening with me for the next hour. Um, and, I don't take that lightly. I really respect all of you guys, and I want to give you guys, the best version of me that I can give you guys. So thank you guys again for taking this time to just, call in tonight and, go over, just taking yourselves to the next level, to wherever that is for you guys, right? Everybody has different levels that they want to achieve, but, the purpose of our high performance calls that we call into tonight is whatever level that you're in, we want you to get and find strategies, tools, get the right mindset to get you to wherever that is, to like your next level, right? So, definitely if you're here tonight, you're one of those who, is that person that is driven to take your game, your golf game, your life, every aspect of it on the ride to, wherever it is that you want to go next, right? What's that next level for you? So, you know, kind of getting into what we're going to be talking about tonight is, you know, finding what situation you're in now in order to overcome whatever it is that's in your way to get you, through. It is the start of a new year. So this is a time where we're all in modes of New Year's resolutions, goal settings, target settings, whatever you want to call them. So, about a week in already. So I'm sure all of you guys, have set your own little personal goals, what you want to get out of, this year, the next few months, it's a new decade too. So a lot of us even are making plans for what can we achieve in the next decade. It's amazing to see that a decade just ended. And if you look back, well, some of you guys who are old enough to remember, what the last 10 years look like. And if you don't know what the last 10 years looks like, you can even look back. What is the last, 5 years, 3 years, 2 years? Look at it like as a whole in a picture. What is that last few years, right? If you're old enough to know like what your last 10 years was like, you can imagine all the possibilities and capabilities that you've gained a lot the last several years, up to 10 years. Even, those of you old enough to know like how technology and phones have changed over the last decade has been like amazing, right? We once looked at, if some of you on this call might be a little young, but if you remember what the iPhone 1 looked like, that seemed like, the biggest technology ever. And I think now if anybody who has a phone would never trade what they have now for the iPhone 1. But to see what has gained over the last 10 years has been amazing. So if we look at what happens in the next set of years, right? All of you now are old enough so you can, at least forecast, right? Whether you can look back 2 or 3 years, but now we can look at the next decade. Where am I going to be? Will I, be in high school? Where I be getting into college? Where I be finishing college? Will be, whatever that next, 10 years is for you. You can imagine like looking back now, what it looked like 10 years ago, what it could look like for you, and, create something that's, as big as you want it to be, right? If we asked, the people who came out with the iPhone, like, is this what the iPhone 11 would look like 10 years ago? They probably might have an idea, but nobody would believe them the capabilities of what it would be doing today versus, 10 years ago. So, we can never dream too big, and we can never shoot for something too high. We just got to be able to, figure out ways to get there and constantly, get ourselves on the way. Starting a new year, since we all have goals, and even throughout the year, we set a goal here and another goal here. We're all playing golf, so a lot of times our scores are baseline. So we're looking at, well, if my score is here, I want to get to this level score. If I'm getting here, this is my next level, right? Excuse me. So we've all been if you've ever been in a situation where you set a target, you set a goal of something that you want to get to, and you get so excited and pumped up that you're like, yes, I finally got excited that, I want to I want to shoot my first even par from, the forward tee markers at my golf course, or I want to, lead my varsity team this year. I have this on my high school team. I want to get, that far. I want to get my game to that level where I can lead them. You get so excited. You have the best and greatest day ever, you know, with all this enthusiasm and, energy that you're bringing, because we just set these targets and you kind of just jump in there and start going. And, we get these really good days. Sometimes it lasts for weeks, sometimes it might last for a few months, and you're on this ride, and all of a sudden, we forget about everything, and then we kind of look back and it's like, oh wow, a month went by, or 6 months, or one whole year went by, and I don't even know what happened, right? We got so excited and kind of life went on, and we kind of lost track to the target that we were trying to hit. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, man, I thought it would be there by now, but I wasn't, or I'm not. And I guess I'm just gonna have to create that goal again and jump back in there. And we kind of go through the same cycle over and over. We set goals, we get excited, we start doing them, and something happens along the way where it just kind of phases off, and it really just, we kind of just go through the motions, and we just lose track of where we're at, until like the next big thing happens, where whether it's somebody in our family, a friend of mine, or a friend of yours, or you meet somebody that gets you excited about something, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, I'm really pumped up. I golf a lot. I want to do this. I'm going to start practicing, and then all of a sudden we get all this energy again. And so, what we also might have is, like, we often overlook, if you've ever had scenarios where you've accomplished a ton, where you've set a goal and you actually hit the goal. You set another goal and then you hit that goal. You set another goal and you hit that goal, and a lot of times we just kind of overlook the success that we've had, and we never really look into, like, what is it that gets me to hit these targets? Or we just take it for granted that we've created so much success, from even looking at the last 10 years, whether you can remember the last 10 years or not, looking at where you've came, from 10 years ago till now, right? The capabilities, the tools that you've got in your life. If 10 years ago you were still in elementary school or preschool or wherever that might put you, right? You can even bring that, like, wow, from 10 years when I was in preschool or elementary school to now, I can read a really thick book and I can understand it faster. My comprehension is a ton better, right? I can read faster. My skills on the computer where I can type, right? I can now look at my phone and access information, like all of that stuff, and just swipe and, surprise some adults of, like, different tools I learned on my phone that I can now get things sooner and faster and make life easier, right? All of that stuff you've learned and you've created and developed because there's somebody in that category that still struggles in there. And we often take it for granted that, we've achieved it and we kind of forget about it, and then we kind of move on to the next thing, right? So we've all kind of been there, but we've never ever wondered, or we rarely ever wonder, what got me to achieve the success or the targets that I've set and got. Because if you can achieve what you get, or what you've done along the way to achieve certain things, then it makes it easier for you to understand, if I don't hit the target that I want, what is it that I have to do to keep me in the game long enough to then hit it, or what's preventing me from getting it. So, excuse me. I've been playing golf for an extremely long time, since I was competitively, since I was 7 years old is when they allowed us to play golf back in Hawaii, and travel the Hawaii circuit and play on the different islands. And that's where I met a ton of my friends growing up. And super excited for me to be able to travel to the different islands, but to socialize and get to meet all my friends that that I'm still close to this day, and get to see the different islands, and the fortunate opportunities that my parents gave me to allow me to do that. But with that, it came a ton of experience, being able to play competitive golf, which means, we're entering events to be able to qualify to, national tournaments. So one of the big national tournaments that they still have today is, Junior World down in San Diego, and they have it every summer. Right. And that was the one big event that we was from 7 years old all the way through high school is our number one goal. We always want to qualify. It was me or myself, my brother, and my sister. My brother's a year older, my sister 6 years older. So there was a little bit of difference between me and my brother and my sister, but we all kind of strive for the same goal because we, again, we love to travel. We went up, made it a couple times to San Diego, and we always want to repeat that, right? It's such a small team from Hawaii that would bring, the top 6 to 7 players from each age group out on a trip, and we travel as a big team. So, we'd be setting goals from young, and our goals were just kind of broad like that. A lot of times our parents just said, like, we're going to do this. If you want to play, right, we're going to be setting the schedule, and you're going to be playing, in the summer. These are the events that you're going to be playing that qualifies you up there. And over time, you kind of get used to the routine, and that's what you're shooting for. But, there was a ton of struggle growing up. And, for me being, the youngest of 3, where my brother and sister achieved like so much as a junior golfer. So for me, like the struggles is, I always set goals. And although I know I want to make it to Junior World, every single year out of my entire career, I've qualified for Junior World from 7 years old through high school. I qualified 2 times where I actually made it in and I played. And whereas like my brother and my sister, they basically qualified every single year, 7, 8, 9, 10. That was one age group, 10 and under. Then they made it 11, 12. That's another age group. Then they made it 13, 14, another age group. Then they went 15, 16, 17. They kind of made it every single year in the top 6 to 7 in the state of Hawaii in their age. And so for me growing up, that's kind of what I've always been shooting for. Well, and I've always went, even if I didn't make it, I've always went along for the ride, right? So I get to enjoy the summer trip out there. I get to enjoy, watching them play. Luckily, Hawaii was so close of a community at that time that because I was, the brother of, Jamie's brother, Galen's brother, or whoever I was, right? Joy's my mom, Joy's son, and she would be, coordinating the Kauai Junior Golf. And I was known as somebody's brother or son. Even if I didn't qualify, I was always kind of included in the events, right? So I was always part of that community. But for me, one of my biggest goals was, I want to just be able to qualify just like them, shoot the same scores, compete on the same level as them. And, eventually my sister went off to college. She had fortunate enough to get a scholarship and played golf at Pepperdine for 4 years. Soon after, my brother's a year older than me. He got to play University of Hawaii for 4 years. And then I followed soon after, but they've always been achieving. So I've always kind of had these high benchmarks that I never did achieve, right? And so I'm looking back at just 7 to 17, and then the 4 years in college that I'm playing golf, or 4 years of college, I played 3 years in college golf. But that's basically like 13, 14 years of setting goals and falling short, setting goals and falling short, setting goals and falling short. And, growing up, there's, tons of frustration that, I'm having, like whatever goal that I'm setting. And, after a while, it's not so much I want to qualify. It's like, oh, I just want to play the caliber golf that, my brother and my sister was able to play, right? What do I have to do that? Right. And I'm always shooting. And because my brother grew up so close together in age, we competed together and, even playing in the same events, right? He is playing like in our local stuff on Kauai. Like growing up when I was younger, I was the one that always made fun of, I might've shared some of the stories before, but out of like the peer group that I grew up playing with, I was always like the lowest caliber golfer out of everybody. Right. And maybe out of the entire island and out of the state, I might've been, better than average on the upper end, but out of like just the people that we hung out with and played golf all the time with, I was always like the bottom 5%. If I wasn't like the very worst person out of the group that I was with, I was like top 2, 3, 4 maximum out of everybody that we would continuously play. So like I'm getting let down all the time, and I'm like, what am I gonna do to like compete with these guys? And I put in so much time. I probably out practiced everybody over my entire high school. Well, probably just before middle school through high school, I probably hit more golf balls than any of my peers and friends. Got on the course, played just as much as them. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in like my immediate group that practiced more than me. But I was known for, oh, he's the guy that has a great swing that can't produce the results. So I got labeled in that phase, like, oh, you have such a good swing, you should be playing better, right? And at that time, now I know that, looking good has nothing to do with like playing good. But, still I'm always shooting for what was out of my reach and trying to get there, and just being let down all the time. And, a lot of frustration playing, and it took me a number of years to finally figure out, like, what is it that happened that got me, I've learned to enjoy the game a ton as I got through past high school, college, and into now, where it's not as frustrating when I don't perform as well as I want. But in the past, it was hard, right? Because I'm comparing myself so heavily to what I want to be, but not getting the results, even though I'm putting in the time. And, the next set of my life right now, that the last 10, 11 years, since I moved here and started, teaching and coaching full time and working with tons of players, like, I found ways to enjoy the game a ton better. I love playing golf. I found ways to hit my goals more times in the last 10 years, doing it far less frequent on the competitive side than I did doing it when all I had was school, right? It's going to school, playing golf, going to school, playing golf, taking vacation, playing golf, right? Everything's revolved around golf. And even though I'm in the field now playing golf, right, it keeps me engaged a ton more. But doing it this much, right, I found different ways to be able to, like, how do I set my goals and how do I achieve them? So, day after day, I can compare myself against where I was yesterday. Did I do any better than yesterday? Or how did I do in the past week? Or how was it in, the past month or 6 months or a year? Like, if I look back a year to see where my golf game was, right, there's these different aspects that I set targets, where driving was a big target in the last couple of years that I'm always trying to achieve more in my driving game, right? I had wedging as part of it in the last couple of years to achieve different things, and year over year, like, I'm able to set the targets and finally find ways to find success and hit them year after year, and still enjoy the process along the way. So going, talking about that is kind of finding, and I guess going into like our little frame here, the number one thing that I've learned over the last, 11 years of doing this and being able to set all these goals is, the one thing that I didn't have growing up is I never had a clear target. My target was so arbitrary and vague that I just wanted to play at the level that my brother could play, or I wanted to play at the level that my sister used to play at when she was my age, or I want to be able to win these tournaments. I want to be able to get a Division I scholarship like everybody else and play at the next level. All right, but it's so vague that there's nothing behind it to drive me in a specific direction. So as we look at our first of the frame, if you want to set goals and then achieve them, you have to know exactly what the target is. And it's not just playing good golf, right? Knowing exactly what the target is means we can break golf down into so many different categories and components, right? If we just say we want to play good golf or want to do a little bit better, right? One of the most common things that I hear from most golfers, when we do interview or assessment with them when they're first starting, what is it that you want to achieve, right? And the number one thing is number one or two things is either going to be, I want to just play better, or I want to be more consistent, right? Two of the most vague goals that you can have. And whether you are a high-performing student, right, or a high-performing, business person, if somebody told you, if you're going to school, that, well, you just need to pass, right? Passing could be a C, B, or an A, right? if it's not specific, you don't know where to start and there's no direction. But if you are, a high performing student, right? It's not just passing, it's achieving above and beyond what's needed to pass, right? So I don't just want to get from 7th grade to 8th grade, 11th to 12th, or 12th into college, or, get into a career or a job. It's like, I want to get an A, right? I want to get an A plus. Maybe I want to get a B or a B plus, wherever that is. It's going to be very specific. And if you're that specific in what you want, then you can then mold your way backwards to say, how am I going to achieve that? Right? How we relate it to golf is going to be, we can't just play consistent. What does consistent mean? Everybody's version of consistent is going to be a little bit different, right? My version of consistent golf is going to be a ton different than your version, right? Tiger Woods or Jordan Spieth or Dustin Johnson, if they say, I just want to play consistent golf, that's a totally different picture, right? Their consistent golf in their eyes, or average round of golf that's consistent, is going to be something that, like for myself or for you guys watching right now at this moment in time, extremely difficult to get their consistent round of golf, right? Could it be achieved? Of course it can, but we would have to know what steps you need to get to achieve that. But one is getting very specific on what is the target that you want to hit, right? So if it's a score that you want to hit, let's say you're playing and you want to shoot, let's say your target is going to start off vague, right? So we always kind of start off vague with targets. I want to get on and lead and drive my college team or my high school team. You would then look at that. That's pretty specific. What does that take, right? It then gets you to navigate a little further, right? If I'm looking at a college or a high school and I want to be like the leader, I want to drive that team, I want to take them to win championships, I want to be a role model, I want to do all of these things for people to buy into what you're telling them. You also have to perform. So that gets you then to see like, well, what kind of scores are they posting from what kind of distances? So we start to refine downwards into like, for me to lead this team and for me to drive this team to be, and even as big as I just want to be part of this team, what does it take? Then you start doing some research for me to be a part of this team, whether if it's a high school team. One, it ensures that I get a specific grades to be eligible to play. It's the same with college. You need a specific grade to be eligible to play, but also, what kind of scores are they shooting, right? If I know that for me to be on, a high school team in California at a top school and you want to play in the varsity team, you would have to, let's say you would have to shoot an average of 40 or 39 or lower for some schools, and other schools maybe 45. It just depends, right? Once you start doing the research, it's going to give you a specific number. In the past, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, the people that have made it on these teams have been this. The people that have led the teams have been this, right? So now you get specific frame points to say, well, this is where I'm going to go. This is where I want to get to. And we're looking at, then we can, design backwards. How is it that we're going to get there? All right. So it now leads us to the second part in, assessing is going to be assessing your current situation, right? So if we know what your target is, whether it's a score, we can refine your score down to a specific aspect of, for me to get this score, my driving has to be better. For me to get this score, my putting needs to be better. And I'm using, again, arbitrary terms. So driving better might mean I need to hit the ball in play 90% of the times when I play 9 holes where I don't get penalty shots, or I need to be hitting it over 250 yards. So my approach shots to the green give me a 8 iron and below, 8 iron through wedge, to get my approach shots closer where I can hit more greens in regulation or have more birdie putts, right? Or my putting needs to be better by, I got to be able to 2-putt 90% of the time, or 95% of the time, every time my ball is 20 feet and closer to the hole. When my ball is 5 feet, I need to be making those 70% of the time or 65% of the time. Giving yourself specific targets to then measure against to see how much closer, and all of those little variations off your score has to directly impact and influence, the exact target that you're doing, right? If I say, let's say I need to drive it over 250 yards, I got to get it 250 to 270 yards to get a better club, a lower club, 8-iron to wedge in my hand, and I accomplish that. If that doesn't change my target score that I'm shooting for, then we veered off the wrong path and we set the targets wrong. So that leads us into our second point, which is you need to assess your current situation. And when I say assess your current situation is you need to know at this moment in time, where is my golf game, right? How well am I playing? Where am I strong? What needs work? Or if I'm trying to shoot 39 for 9 holes and my current score is then 45 from whatever tees that I'm playing from, I need to know where are those additional 6 shots coming from round after round after round, right? So if I'm tracking enough of my scores, I can look back and say, oh, these ones are the ones that came out, right? Maybe I feel like my driving isn't good, but my drive's keeping me in good play because my approach has put me in good enough opportunities to shoot 39. And as I track them, then maybe I might say, oh, it's because of, I noticed on the last 7 rounds of my golf game that every time I'm inside of 25 yards, I seem to chip it twice. So I chip it, whether I hit it short or I blade it over the green. More than half of the times that I have these shots, I'm chipping it more than once, right? Where it adds up. So having it specifically broken down into that situation is going to help you. Where are you currently? If you don't know where you're at right now, right? If you know that, well, I'm currently shooting averaging of 45, right? If you don't know how your 45 is being calculated, how many times you're hitting your tee shots, how many putts for birdie do you have? How many times, around the greens from inside 10 yards or inside 30 yards that you're making it in 3 or making it in 2, right? I'm just kind of throwing out random little things that you can look at, but there's like an infinite number of possibilities that you can be looking at, but you really want to find something that you're able to do over and over and assess. If you have like 20, 30 things that you're measuring here, chances of you doing it over and over again is probably not likely, all right? If you ask a PGA Tour player or an LPGA Tour player, how many different stats are you keeping to measure your score year after year when you know that you're practicing more than anybody on this planet and your scores still go up some weeks, go down the other weeks, go up, and it never makes a progression going and improving, right? It always kind of funnels this way and you're trying to figure out, what's making it go better and what's making it go worse. And if you ask them, what are you tracking? They'll probably be able to tell you so many different metrics that it wouldn't make sense, right? It probably wouldn't make sense to me, right? How many things that they track, but they're at a whole different level that they're optimizing in a whole different way. Right? So they've trained themselves to look at so many different things. What you need to do is find what are the 2, 3, 4 big aspects that you can check in your game right now and do it on a consistent basis and find where's my game today? How can I look back at the last month, the last 2 months, the last year and see what was the trend, right? Nowadays we have apps that you can subscribe to. Some of them are free that you can go and you just plug it in on your phone or your mobile app. If you don't have a mobile app, they have downloads of scorecards that you just fill the scorecard out as you're playing and you go home and punch it into the computer, log that thing in there, and it gives you the breakdown of your drives, your putts from how far and all of this stuff. And, it does it for you. So, there's apps out there that make it so much easier to measure your current situation right now, because now if we know exactly where we are, right, and this is where I want to be, right, we have this big curve here that tells us this is the gap that's keeping me from where I'm at to where I'm going to get to. These 2 components by itself shows you the entire picture of achieving your goals. So I lead with these 2 because if you don't know exactly what your target is and your exact current situation, then everything that you do, then you'll be like me and spend, from well, I wouldn't say 7. I was probably a little bit young to understand, but by the time I was 10, for sure, I knew like I got to be beating my brother, and I can't, right? I'm the guy that, I mean, again, they make fun of me at that age, like, oh man, you won that tournament, but you were in B flight, you never made it to championship flight, right? I was like the flight down, right? And so, that kind of fueled me more, like, oh my God, I really want to beat these guys now, but yet they're achieving so fast, and I'm kind of figuring out, behind them. And as I think about now, what is it that was different, right? I wanted to out practice them, outwork them, and yet so frustrating that somebody like my brother and some of my friends that I grew up playing with, they rarely practice, right? They would practice enough, and they would play enough, right? And they would scale certain things. They would practice more as events come up. So now it kind of makes sense, right? It's not just constant just going. Whether they were doing it on purpose or not, they were a ton more strategic with their time. And it's one, because they always knew, like, I know where my game is, and I know what I want to get to, right? They knew the scores they needed to shoot to compete, to win championships, right? So they could be a lot more strategic with their time, when to spend it, how much to ramp it up, how much to cool it down, when's too much for them, right? So they can sustain it over, over the course of, years and years, 10, 11, 12 years. So definitely these two, I can't stress it enough, right? And I'll kind of come back again to knowing your current situation, right? As human beings, we never want to look at the reality of things, right? And I can tell you from my experience, right, I always wanted to see myself, especially because I was always in the shadows of my brother, more my brother than my sister, because my sister was a little bit older. But I was always like Jamie's brother, right? I was labeled as Jamie's brother, and I always wanted to, again, outwork them. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought. But since I was always like labeled as, Jamie's brother, that kind of gave me that drive to go and, kind of just, I just got like a mind blank, so my apologies. So I'm actually going to come back to that one when it kind of refreshes. So we're going to kind of move on. But definitely assess your current situation. Yes, sorry, I got it now. Because of the shadow I was always in, and I always wanted myself to be as close to possible to make myself feel good in this situation. So it was very hard for me, because at that time, right, I wasn't taking any stats other than like, how many greens am I hitting? How many putts might I be hitting? Fairway, 3 stats, right? And now when we look at, the science behind taking golf stats, keeping just fairways hit, green sits means how many times you're putting for birdie, and how many putts aren't very good, right? They give you false sense of, results. They don't give you enough details, because you can be put in different situations where, you could miss a fairway, but be in a really good opportunity of scoring, right? So it's more of, nowadays we start keeping stats into, how many opportunities are you getting yourself into versus recoveries that you're getting into. But such basic stats, and I knew where they want, and I didn't want to see myself as being so far behind them, because it was now such a large picture and gap to fill, that I wanted to feel like, oh, I'm just right behind it, where the reality was, well, if we're playing locally and I'm 10 years old and everybody's in championship flight, but here I am in like 2 flights or 1 flight down, right? That's a very big gap. But I tell myself the story like, oh, I play with them every week, like I'm almost there, and I'm giving myself this false sense that I'm really down here, they're here, that I was trying to achieve at that moment. But I'm thinking I'm right here, thinking that I just got to get that next step up to overtake them. Whereas there were so many like levels that I needed to get to even get to where I was, that when if I look back now and assess if I looked at it correctly. So now with stats, it gives you like the clearest picture possible to see, where am I at today? So there's no like emotional feeling like, I really don't want to be this far, and I'm going to make myself feel a little bit better, right? So, throughout my entire junior career, that's kind of how it went, right? I'm really down here. Even in college, like I was down here, but I wanted to feel like I'm just behind, because I'm playing in the same similar, not same caliber, right? In Division One golf, as them, and I made it two with them, and I'm trying to keep myself, internally and please myself just so, I feel better in the moment, which then in the long term, right, separated me from actually getting to where I wanted to get to. So now, as we go on to the next one, it's, we want to relieve your overwhelm and stress by creating realistic time frames. And, it gets right into that last story that I shared with you. I always, I'd have this big goal. I want to get here, maybe the first time I remember breaking 80 from, our blue tees back on Kauai. I was in my 9th grade year, and the blue tees was at 7,000 yards, or 6,900 and change. And that was the goal, right? Championship golf's going to be played from here. And it was probably towards the middle ending of my 9th grade year. I finally played, and I shot like not even 79. I think I shot 78 is what I shot. And I was like, oh my God, I broke 80 for the first time. And at that time, my brother's a year ahead, and he's shooting under par. He's shooting 72, 71, 67s. And I'm like, oh, I kind of passed this border, and, I'm right there, and I'm going to achieve where he's at by this year or in the next few weeks, because I'm going to put in more time. And, then I get super excited and jump in there and start practicing and kind of going in circles. And then all of a sudden I'm putting so much time in, at that time, I'm working on the wrong stuff, and I get overwhelmed and stressed out because, like, oh my gosh, I'm practicing so much more. I'm hitting balls in the net at home. No, like, my brother never hit one ball at the house at home, right? My dad put a net in the garage that we could hit in. I'm the only one using it. We were fortunate where my dad in our high school years built a putting green in the backyard, right? He went and got grass from one of the resort courses and figured out how to grow a putting green in the backyard, and bought all the equipment, grew putting green, bought the lawnmower, and, a roller to make it smooth, cut holes, put a sprinkler system, made this whole thing. And I was the only one using it. And it lasted for several years, and my brother barely ever stepped out there. And I get so overwhelmed and stressed because I'm putting in all this time, and I'm working on it. And what happened was I'm just trying to squeeze so much in there in such a small time frame. So, you want to be extremely realistic about what you're trying to achieve. So if I say, this is where I'm at today, for myself, I'll give you an example. I'm being a teaching instructor who plays golf, once a week to every 10 days, I'll go and play around the golf. And my average is going to be, 75, 76-ish. And I want to get to the PGA Tour where they are shooting. If they played a very similar golf person I would play, they would be shooting 65 or 66 on average. And then when they play a high intensity tournament, then it translates into somewhere around, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73. But in the same conditions that I would play, I'm at a 75, 76, and then they would be at a 65, 66, 64, right? And then I think, well, I can hit shots just as well as them sometimes, or depending on the shot, a lot of the times. But then there's categories that I would say, well, I'm way underperforming here, but if I just focus for 1 year, I will get there. When the reality is there's no chance that I could take my game with what I have in 1 year and get it to the level that it needs to be to compete on the PGA Tour. Could I get it to a level that I could possibly qualify to the PGA Tour event, like one or two, like an event? Possibly. That would be more realistic. If I kind of drop everything that I do when I commit for a year, I would be, maybe there's a chance, right? But for me to compete on the tour level week after week, there is no chance. So, ask yourself the question, like, I know my target. What's the realistic time frame? You would say, right, instead of me doing this over the next month to achieve my target, or the next week, or the next, 6 months, you would look over the next year. How would I plan this out? Right? Over the next 2 years, how would I plan this out to hit the target? Depending on the target that you're hitting, right? If you know what the target is, where your current situation is, right? You can plan out, and you want to stretch this, right, into a realistic time frame. So you're not saying, I got to practice all of this today. And you have such high expectations on what you're going to create for the day and the success that you want to gain out of the day that, you know, you get left in like, oh, I didn't get there today. Then I'm going to go hard tomorrow, and you do tomorrow and your expectations are so high that, oh, I didn't get there tomorrow either. And, you know, there's only so much of that you can take before you kind of hang it up and say, oh, it's not really for me right now. I need a break. If I take a break, then I'm going to be able to recover and then start again, right? So like span it out for the life cycle of what you can anticipate it's going to be. And then if you have this life cycle, say I want to get to, and we'll be realistic for, you know, junior golfers and high school players, that let's say you're in a scenario where you're shooting 45 to 50 and you want to shoot 36. That's, you know, that's extremely capable, right? But you want to say, like, in what time frame is that capable, right? Depending on the lifestyle that you have, how much can you put in, right? So if I say I can take my game from 45 to 36, but I'm going to do that over the next year, right? Now all of a sudden we have 12 months sitting in front of us, and, you know, we'll relieve the overwhelm and stress by anticipating like what is going to come up in these situations that's going to prevent me from committing to being consistent, right? What we want is consistency more than anything else, to commit, you know, week after week. What can you be doing to get you closer? Day after day, what can you be doing to get you closer to, you know, the goal? If I stretch it out for a week, then now it becomes like, oh my gosh, this is so manageable. I'm going to go from 46 to 36 in a year, because, you know, at the end of 11 months, I'm going to be right around the corner. At the end of like 6 months, I'm going to be like nearly there. I'm going to be around, you know, 30, you know, high 30s, low 40s. You know, at the end, and you kind of bring it all the way back. At the end of this month, I'm going to see myself here. And if it's not score, it's going to be like, I'm going to see this part of my game that is improved, right? This aspect, my driving that's getting me closer, or my putting or my chipping that's getting me closer. That's something that you're measuring. And then you can bring it all the way back to today. What is it today that's going to make me more successful than yesterday, right? If we just go by like, I just felt like it was better, that's not that part, that's not that measurable, because you could enter your practice having just studied for a test and failed a test at school, and then you would go on practice and you may have had a really good practice day, but you would then say, oh, it really wasn't that good. Or maybe that test may have caused you to be out of your mental state to focus on what you wanted to do and achieve. That would cause you to have a lower than performance day. So like, if you can see and stretch it out, you can say like, you know, all the way back to the day, what is it that I can be doing today that made me better than what I was yesterday? If you can start learning to achieve, right, that's what it's going to do to help, you know, relieve the overwhelm, because now you don't have to do it today. You know, I just want to be able to get a little bit ahead of where I was yesterday, and a little bit ahead, right? This month is a little bit better than last month, right? And as you climb the ladder, I mean, there's no other option other than to eventually start hitting targets, and then you set more targets. You slowly move up, you hit those targets, and you set more targets. So as we get through, and now we're starting to relieve, you know, the overwhelm, the stress, the thing in your head that's going to get you to say, I need a break. I got to stop. I got to do something else, right? I'm going to learn something else. I got to go, you know, hang out with my friends more, right? All of that stuff now comes into like creating your development schedule, right? If you know how you're going to span this thing out, now it's time to create your schedule. You have the clearest picture you can get up here. You know how to stretch it out and put in a realistic time frame. And now you're building in the times that you're going to say, this is where my development in golf is. These days is when I play. These days is when I'm going to be practicing. These days is when I can't go to the golf course, but I can do this for, you know, a few minutes a day at home. This day is when, you know, I can see my schedule is pretty rough right here, and with school and all these exams, this is when I probably won't want to practice. So this is when I'm going to want to relax, watch a movie, go out with my friends. All of these things you can put on the schedule, because you can anticipate all of the stuff coming up. And now we have this big schedule that may be spanning out for a year or spanning out for 6 months, wherever it is. And now we're breaking in the times that you're going to be extremely deliberate on when you're going to be practicing and for how long. the parts that you're going to need breaks. If you play other sports, right, you're going to be building in, this is when, baseball, soccer, football, tennis, basketball, these windows, right? That's going to give me these built-in breaks to take my mind and shift me. But what can I be? Could I be doing something with golf on these same days that maybe it's at home for 5 minutes, right? You have those opportunities to build all of that stuff in. And, creating your schedule is the most difficult thing to do if you don't have the above three, right? When you're trying to just see, well, I want to create my next year's schedule, but I don't know what the target is. I don't know what the current situation is. I really don't know what the realistic time frame to achieve this is. Now we're just going to be guessing and just plugging things in blocks. And then the amount of fulfillment that you'll be getting out of the times that you're doing it, those are the very times that you'll get yourself into like, oh, I'm just showing up and I'm going through the motions. I'm showing up, I'm going through the motions. And again, it's all about sustainability. When you're trying to achieve and get to the highest performance, it's all about sustaining the highest level of performance, like consistently, right? So how can you get excited consistently is by creating and developing a very, very, strategic schedule that's based on the first three. So as we move down, we go to number 5. This is something that's it's really new for me, right? I've implemented this in the last year or so, it's my opportunity to share with you all. Excuse me. It's implementing and doing a morning and evening journal, right? If you do not already journal, this is something that is extremely necessary if you're trying to attain your goals or you're trying to achieve your goals, right? Morning and evening journal. Why is it so important that we need to journal, right? Journaling, there's so many positive things about journaling, and it's not just getting your thoughts on paper. Yeah, one, it's getting your thoughts on paper, right? Sometimes we have everything in our head and we just need to get it out, because whether it's reminders, maybe it's ways that we feel, and we just gotta have an avenue to kind of release it out instead of like hold it in. Even like celebrating, right? Accomplishments that you might have. You're going to, you could write in a journal, excuse me, because if you hold in an accomplishment, something that you succeeded at, that's kind of where we start taking it for granted, because, there's something that we may have achieved and it's like, it was no big deal. I always do that. Or if we start celebrating and writing it down, you're learning to actually accomplish and gain success and multiple times, right? How is it that, we find the highest performing anybody, whether it's in business or in sports, they're achieving success over and over and over and over and over. And then eventually, if you see them like kind of dive down, how do they get out and achieve success again, right? You might see them dive down and then they get success again, right? Over and over and over. It's because, one, they have achieved so many things, right? They've gotten success tons of times, just as everyone here tonight has achieved. If you look back at, just what you've done today, how many things that we took for granted that was successful that you normally would say, it's no big deal, right? Celebrate those, take those in, and teach yourself the accomplishment of, or the skill of like attaining something, right? For you to be on this call tonight, you had to have learned how the internet works. That's a huge accomplishment. There's people out there now that do not know how the internet works, don't know how links work, right? That's a skill that you've learned, like embrace that skill, right? If you're watching here and you said, I'm gonna block out this time to attend this training on how to achieve my goal, that's a huge success, because there is a ton of other things that you could be doing with, this hour of time that you could be doing other than listening to me, teach you how to, set goals and achieve them, right? So this is a huge success for you just to be on this call, right? So one, get everything out on paper, but two, right, it's, there's research out there that just shows like, as you write things down, right, writing things down makes you break things down in your head more strategically, more specifically, When we think in our head, everything's kind of jumbled all over and we're trying to extract things from this big, messy picture. And that's why we tend to forget a lot of things, right? Oh man, I should have done this yesterday and I forgot. I got too much on my plate, right? Once you write things down, it gets you to line things up and then put it down on paper, right? So at the end of the day, even if you just write mindlessly, like your thoughts on paper, and let's not even call it a journal, you just start jotting things down and like dumping everything off your head, that will make you process information better in the long run. That's what, a lot of, research and science has proved, that you just writing things down, like as you're doing it in school, if you're writing thoughts down on paper, you're changing your brain, you're rewriting your brain to work a little bit differently, right? So journaling is going to be huge. I put here morning and evening journal. And if we go into tying this, specifically into, achieving the goals that you set, right? I would have you guys, and I would encourage you guys to have like a specific questions that you ask yourself in the morning, and then specific things that you do, like no matter what, in the evening, right? Because more than just your journal, right? It could be your golf journal. It could be like, we talk about how are you measuring yourself daily, monthly, weekly, right? Over the year, how do you know you're getting better, right? So in the morning, I would always ask the questions. Who do I need to become to achieve the target that I'm shooting for? So whatever the goal is, like you're giving yourself an image or a profile or an avatar of like, who is the person that needs to show up today in the morning in order to get you closer, right? If you don't know who that person is specifically, or what type of person that is, chances of you going through the process to actually hit that target is going to be by mistake. So you're strategically engineering yourself to say, what person or who do I have to be to achieve that, right? If you're trying to achieve the tour level, right, you're looking at what is it that tour players have that's different than what I have. Who can I be to become at that level, right? You may not have the skills and capability at this point, but you can then say, what skills and capabilities do I need before I get to that level? Who is it that I need to become to get there, right? So giving yourself an identity of who is it that you need to be to hit the target. Second, it's going to be describe the situation that would cause you to mess up or cause you to kind of veer off the path of what you have scheduled, right? We're in a society and life now that pulls you in every which direction. So whether it's, you grabbing your phone and checking it because it vibrated, or it rang and you're checking who texted you, or maybe the phone rang and pulling you off, or something on social media is, oh, let me check what this is doing. And something comes into your mind and you kind of pull it off, and it kind of takes you away from time to time, right? So any of these distractions, you kind of write in there, what is it? What are the common things that happen through my day that could pull me off of the schedule that I planned for myself today, from who I need to be to hit the target, right? If you can jot those down in advance, right, now you have the ability to create triggers for yourself. Every time, let's say a phone is a big distraction. Every time my phone vibrates and rings, I'm just going to let it go. Or maybe I'm going to turn it on airplane mode during this period of time where I can't get distracted and zone off into what's going on. Because how many times have you got a text message from somebody and maybe it was important and you respond to it, but now you stayed in your phone for another 5, 10, 15 minutes, because the moment you get distracted and veer off, you also have to consider the time, that how much focus and time is now going to get you back in to where you were. So, find out what is it that can pull you away. Is it, is it transportation this day that typically happens during the week that I can't get there? Can I plan transportation around this schedule to make sure, I have plan A. If that doesn't work, this is plan B. If that doesn't work, this is plan C. If transportation is an issue, frequently for you to get out to practice on days that you schedule to practice, right? You can always schedule around and find ways to be resourceful enough to plan around that. And three, what's the one thing that you can do today that's outside of your comfort zone? One thing that it's proven time and time again. It's the things that we do that's outside of our comfort that gets us to grow and achieve more. You know, the moments that we stay comfortable is the moments that we're just, you know, comfortable where we're at. We don't want to change, and we want to stay in this little bubble because it's easy to be comfortable, right? We get the certainty and self-assurance that yes, I feel fine, and if I've got myself this far already, I should be good. But we forget that for me to get to the level that I'm at here, at some part, you know, behind, I had to get uncomfortable to learn a skill and tactic to get to where I'm at. So that's something that like you would want to say, what's something that you can do today that gets you out of your comfort zone that you can do, right? Train yourself to get out of your comfort and do it. Get out of your comfort and do it. You know, for me, one of my biggest fears is, you know, public speaking, right? You know, I've gone through business school at the University of Hawaii and did, you know, a number and tremendous amounts of presentations in front of a class. My hands are shaking. I got these note cards where like I had the whole presentation on hand. I'm flipping it. I'm never engaging everybody. I'm shaking and like my mouth turns all dry. And, you know, I have the note cards even in front of me and I don't know what to say. And I can't even read it. It's that, you know, nerve-wracking for me. And probably it wasn't until I can even say like, you know, teaching golf every single day, me speaking to like a group of people or a single person that I've never met before, that's always kind of came comfortable to me. So that kind of didn't get me to grow any more than what I've always been, because I've always been able to talk to people in an intimate setting. But over a group of people that where I'm presenting something, you know, my fear was always the fear of being judged. And the moment for me that what is it that I have to do to, you know, get comfortable around something that I don't like? It's, you know, start doing stuff just in my daily life that aren't very comfortable, right? You know, things that I take for granted, even with Seiko, right? Things that when I feel like, oh, I didn't do anything wrong and she might be upset, what's uncomfortable with me is to then go, even though I know the result's going to be better, it's to then say, well, sorry for what had happened, or sorry for whatever I did, right? Whatever specifically she was mad at me, and kind of just own up to it and make it better, right? But for me in that situation, it's like, I feel like I'm right. Why do I have to apologize? I have so much like ego and pride that it's uncomfortable. Like there's no ways. And even now, like it still comes up, right? But you know, the times that I kind of own up to it, you know, that's super uncomfortable. I know it's uncomfortable. That's like my little trigger to know that I know I should be doing it because it's uncomfortable. At the end of the day, what's the outcome? Is the outcome for me to be right, or is the outcome to have a beautiful relationship with my wife, right? And that's the outcome. If I can get to the outcome faster, right? Who cares what I feel like? That's the discomfort that you go with. Going into public speaking, right? And talking now, right? Doing all these little things that kind of get me in a situation is, I'm still nervous talking to you guys. Like this, we've done this a number of times already. My first one to now, there's a huge, tremendous growth. I'm a ton more comfortable now, but still extremely nervous, you know, the first 5-10 minutes of our call, just because I haven't done it enough. The only way for me to get more comfortable is to do more of these, right? Talk in front of people and be able to present, you know, my ideas and strategies to take you guys and get you all to the next level. So, you know, do the things that are uncomfortable and make it something common, because the things that are most difficult in our situation, in our life, in your golf game, are probably the most important things for you to work on. You know, even if it doesn't take you to that next level per se, you overcoming the fear of something that's difficult is a tool and strategy that you can then, you know, apply everywhere else. And finally, in the morning journal, it's, what would your perfect day look like, right? If you've ever told yourself at the end of the day, today was like so good, it was perfect, and you have other days that say, oh man, it was such a stressful day, I wish I played better golf, you know, I couldn't hit it anywhere, my ball was doing this, all my tests, I studied so much, and you just get overwhelmed at the end of the day, and you have such big highs and lows, you know, a lot of times it's because we just don't know what the perfect day looks like. So in the morning, if you can finish up with just saying like, what does a perfect day look like for me today? Right? If you know what the picture of a perfect day looks like in your head, the chances of you following the path of what you create is a lot more higher than just you reacting to what's going on and what's pulling you every which direction. Because we can have bad moments in the day, but if we know like what's the few things that's going to make my experience for the day like perfect, really good, beautiful, wonderful, we'll always levitate back towards that, put ourselves in a better mindset and state to then accomplish the things that we need to accomplish instead of letting the one thing affect our entire day. So you'd want to finish, you know, definitely with that. What does your perfect day look like in the morning? In the evening is where you kind of recap what the day looks like. You know, you would always ask and write down what's the 5 things in my day today that was really good, right? You could maybe say like, oh, I hit all of these points on the day that I designed perfect. Or maybe this thing came up in my day that was unexpected, but I was able to veer back into my plan. Or I was able to anything that creates success in your day, right? I got up today without being waken up by my alarm, right? I made my own breakfast today instead of having somebody make it for me, right? Anything that then bundles on success. So 5 successful moments or great things that happened in your day. Right after is what is the one thing in the entire day that could have been that could have made your day better, right? We often finish the day even if it did go well, we often kind of stay and focus on what are all the things that didn't go good, right? All we need to do is what's the one thing that would have changed everything for the day? What's the one thing that would have made the biggest impact to make my day even better than what it was? So if you had a great day, how would you make it an outstanding day? If you had a below average day, how would you make it the best day? What is that one thing? And everybody's going to have that one thing. And you know, only list one, because it's so easy to fall into the trap of like, I could have did this, and all of a sudden you have, you know, 2-3 times more of the things that you could have done than the things that you've achieved, where you always want the achievements to overpower, you know, the things that you need to do. And finally, you know, you'll finish the day with a little scorecard, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being no effort, no drive, nothing at all. You just kind of reacted every moment of the day. 10 being this is the perfect day. Even if you didn't get the perfect outcome, you did everything that you planned. You were in good mindset. You knew where you wanted to go. You knew where you were at. You know, you figured out how to overcome the stress because you timed it out. You followed the schedule and you did everything. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you, right? 10 being everything was exactly how I anticipated. Boom. 1 being I just woke up, showed up, and kind of reacted all day. And, you know, if I had a great day, it was by mistake. If I didn't, then it was also by mistake. So know exactly where it's at, because now we can look back at trends and see like, oh, this is how I engineered myself to have a great day. Now I can do it again. If I engineered a way and I had a great day and saw that my outcome didn't get as much achievement as I wanted to, what can I change in this framework, right? What can I do to see like, do I need to stretch it a little longer? Did I misassess my current situation? Did I need to make different adjustments in my schedule to make a bigger, larger impact for me to get through to the next level? So definitely scale your evening with the evening journal. And finally, see your targets everywhere, right? If you've never heard it, it's probably happened in your life without you even knowing it. So a lot of the things that get embedded in your head and in your mind and in your body is things that you hear over and over, right? Some things that you see over and over, right? So typically when you hear things for the first time or you see things for the first time, like it makes sense, it lasts for a little bit, and then, you know, we really forget about it until we see it again or we hear it again. So we've all gone through that. right? And it's like, oh, I remember they said this the other month, right? Now it makes sense. Then you might go, you know, go a few months, a few days, a year, as you hear from somebody else, oh my gosh, I heard that same thing, it must be good. And you start hearing it, and all of a sudden you hear it enough times, or you see it enough times, you know, then all of a sudden you make that shift. But, you know, how long did it take you, right? It may have took a total of 6 months, 1 month, 1 year, 2 years, so you hear it finally, and then you make that shift. But the reality is, you know, it took you that slight moment where you decided, oh, this makes sense, I'm going to apply it, and then I'm going to do it. So if you can embed yourself and get yourself in an environment where you're constantly being reminded of the targets that you want to hit and see it everywhere, right? And that's part of kind of doing your journal. You at least see it every morning when you wake up because you're writing it down. I'm kind of looking at the clock here, so I apologize. I'm a little over on time, but I do want to like share with you a little story. We went to a conference in the fall, and you know, we had the pleasure of listening to one of the speakers. I'm not sure if you're going to know who she is, but her name is Jamie Kern Lima. She was the owner or CEO of a cosmetic company called It Cosmetics. So if you've never heard of who she is, I would definitely get you to go look her up and see what she's accomplished. So she came up with a cosmetics line that called It Cosmetics. And she has like such a remarkable story from where she came. And she shared a ton of different strategies, but one that pertains to what we're talking about here is she created these targets and reminders like everywhere in her house. You know, she came from somewhere that she quit her job, her corporate job or whatever job she was in, and she wanted to do her own cosmetics line because she had a skin condition, right? And I don't know the exact name of the skin condition, but she finally came out with something and found something that worked for her. Everything that she's tried in the past didn't work, and she found something, and she created her mission on, this is what I believe, this is who I'm going to help, this is how I'm going to change the world. And you know, she shares a story that she had such a good product, but nobody knew what the product was. Nobody knew who she was. And being in the cosmetic and beauty industry, she mentioned it's such a close and small community that if nobody's heard of you, then you don't have anything that matters. So, you know, she needed money to get the business going, and she's going down to like, you know, the last dollars of her and her husband have, you know, ever, and they're just trying to make it work. And, you know, time and time again, people are just telling them, you know, it's not for us, we're not going to invest in you. It's not for us, we're not going to invest in you. You know, it went as far as like people in the highest level, like industry, you know, saying like, you have no business being in here. Your product is basically trash, and you don't even deserve to be in this room presenting to us. It went that far. But what she did every time is she started to write notes in her house on like things that she would need to overcome, or things that she overcame, things that she heard that she didn't believe, and put her beliefs everywhere in her house. And she mentioned like, you know, Post-it notes, papers everywhere, all over her mirror, all over the room. You know, she said people would come over to their house and be like, oh my God, what is going on? Because there's paper like fluttered everywhere, taped to the wall, the same notes in different locations. And just she just needed to be reminded, because to take her belief system, to believe what she actually believes in, and not let everybody coming in tell her this is their belief, right? She created her own belief just by seeing it over and over again, until, you know, I forget how long it took, but it took years of her getting pushed out, pushed down, saying no, rejected, all these times, good opportunities thrown out, everything, till finally somebody like believed in her and gave her this, or she started it and got it out. And, you know, I don't know how long she had it open, but, you know, her biggest success is she created a huge business with it, right? And then just sold it, I think within the last year or two, for $1 billion to L'Oreal. Right, so she came from nothing, everybody throwing stuff on her. Her belief was so far down that the one thing that she said kept her up is, you know, writing her beliefs on the wall, writing her targets, writing her goals everywhere. So there wasn't an ounce of like doubt in her system that would get her to say, you know, it's time to pack it up. And everybody told me no. It's like every time doubt would come in, she would look at a wall here and say, oh, I learned this. This is what I'm going to do. Every time doubt would come in her house, she would look at this note and read it and get her back in the moment, right? So, you know, and it's not just doing it once, right? She was doing it for years, and it took her years to overcome and stay in it long enough. So, you know, see your targets and goal everywhere. That's what's going to keep you in it in the long game, right? What we really want to do is we want to be, you know, the patient people. We want to be able to stay, you know, patient and in the game long enough so change and, you know, transformation can occur, right? Everything moves so fast in today's society that, you know, we expect or we're wanting to like, I want to like dive in right here and put in like 10 hours. I'm going to get this huge output. No, you can get 10 hours, you'll get a output, but you're going to have to get 10 hours again to get another output. You're going to have to put another time, right? It's never just like a one-shot deal and this is what I get. It's all about, can I be consistent over and over, even if it's not an hour a day? It could be, you know, can I do something, right? If you're looking to be the highest performer in golf, you're looking to achieve like your goals as fast as possible, you need to be touching some aspect of your goal every single day, right? It doesn't matter if it's, you know, for 1 or 2 minutes or half a day or a full day at the golf course, right? You just need to be consistent in touching it every single day. It might be as simple as, you know, searching on the internet and just seeing like something golf related that gets your mind thinking about it, right? To keep you engaged, to build that consistency and that muscle for you to, you know, to do it again tomorrow with the same amount or with greater, you know, effort and enthusiasm than the time before. So that being said, that is all of it, right? How to set your goals and achieving it. I know I went a little bit over, so thank you for staying on with me. But, you know, kind of recapping all of this is you got to know exactly what your target is. You have to know your current situation, you know, frame it realistically and create not just snapshots of what it's going to look like, create like the frame. So we see this big picture and now we can plan it out over a realistic time frame. That's how we 100% relieve your overwhelming stress and create that momentum time and time again. Develop your schedule, develop it and stick to it. If you're not doing it already, you definitely want to start journaling because, you know, you got to get your thoughts out, get your brain to start thinking a little bit more, but get your goals on the paper. That's the first step of you seeing it everywhere, right? And then whatever your targets are, see it everywhere. Put it in the mirror in your room, put it in the bathroom, put it in the door so you see it at the exit all the time when you go out. If you have a mobile device or phone, put it as the background on your phone, right? So you know every time you look at your phone, you see the background. Oh, this is what, it's a little reminder, right? You can set triggers, right? So for myself, I have alarms that go off on my phone 3 times a day to remind me of certain things that I need to be engaged in throughout the day, right? To remind myself. So the more times you can see it, the more times, you know, the faster and the more guaranteed those transformations will become, because those are the things that's going to pull you out of when your mind tells you, you know, I don't feel like golfing today, or it's telling you you're not, you know, I'm not that good today. I'm going to wait till tomorrow, where you say, I am that good because I put in the time, right? What is it that I can do right now to create the success? Maybe I'm not going to hit that 300-yard drive, or maybe I'm not going to chip it into the hole. But then it's going to reframe your thinking so you leave with like better intention that grows for you to, you know, achieve more tomorrow than what you did today. So those are the 5. And before you go, again, I will share the most common things that, you know, how you can take this and not get the result that you want. Most common mistakes that most will make hearing this is you're just gonna chalk it up and say, yes, it makes perfect sense. And I understand it. I understand where all of this stuff is at. And because I understand it, I'm gonna do it, right? And maybe I'll come back and I'll watch this again and I'll write this list down and I'll just conceptually know it and it becomes a habit. You know, the truth is, if it was a habit and automated already, you would already have, you know, hit your targets in this area, right? And this is just like if you're just looking around golf, right? If you look at golf, think about the targets that you hit. You probably have gone through all of these things, but again, it was by accident. You should be doing it by design. So you should be, you know, you should definitely be doing it on purpose. So, you know, most common things, you'll just kind of say, I understand it, and then kind of go on. Whereas you want to, what is the one thing that you can do and take action tonight, right? Best thing you can do leaving this call tonight is spend 5 or 10 minutes starting your journal out of everything on here, right? We talked about 1 and 2 kind of gives you the best direction, the best action to take, and constant action to take to create the momentum of success and achievement is to journal. Get your thoughts on paper, create the plan at the start of your day, create at the evening, you know, so tonight you can just write down and start your baseline. How did, you know, what's the 5 things that went well today that you've achieved? What's the one thing that could have made it better? And write your scorecard on a scale of 1 to 10. How much of my plan was on purpose, right? How did I rate myself today? 10 being everything was planned out and strategic. 1's being I reacted to everything. Regardless of what your score is, you've got to have a score to measure, right? So let's say today was one of those days you just woke up and showed up to everything that you did. Put a 1 down, right? You'll still have achievements that you found today. You'll still have the thing that would make it, you know, take it to the next level and better. But it was reactive, right? It was a 1. Everything was reactive. Maybe it's a 2. But what that shows you is tomorrow, how do I get that to a 10? What do I need to do to have it a 10? And then you start tomorrow with your morning. Then you start creating and anticipating your entire day. So thank you guys so much. I know we went a little over. So if you do have questions, we'll definitely save that for another time. So thank you guys for all your time, and you know, start your goal setting and you know, go through this process that we showed you here to start achieving everything that you want. You guys have a good night.